Mr. Alexander is out of the shower, correct?
Yes, he is. Or he stepped out. I don't know if he has 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but he stepped out.
Well, he needed to have been out of the shower in order for him to grab you and body slam you, didn't he?
Not necessarily.
Oh, so you're saying that he was in the shower, and from the shower he kind of reached over and grabbed you and body slammed you sideways, even though he wasn't out of the shower? Ma'am, were you crying when you were shooting him?
I don't remember.
Were you crying when you were stabbing him?
I don't remember.
How about when you cut his throat? Were you crying then?
I don't know.
Hello, my name is Crystal. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any case recommendations, please leave them down below. Today's case is actually a recommendation, and I'll include that comment right here. Today we'll be discussing the murder of Travis Alexander and the murderer, Jodi Arias. Travis Alexander and his siblings had a rough upbringing until their grandparents took them in when Travis was 8 years old. Religion was important to his family, and Travis would speak to friends and say before he joined the church that his life was just in turmoil. Travis grew to be a great salesman and a motivational speaker, and overall, he was just a great guy who everyone enjoyed spending time with. Jodi was a beautiful, young, aspiring photographer. Prior to meeting Travis, she was not part of the LDS church. Travis and Jodi met at a convention in Las Vegas in 2006. At the time that they met, Travis was 29 and Jodi was 26. They connected instantly. Travis thought Jodi was friendly and beautiful, and Jodi thought Travis was handsome and funny. They would stay up all night till 4 a.m. chatting, as most people do when they're in that honeymoon stage. At the time, Travis was living in Arizona and Jodi was living in California. And though they were living in different states, they did start a long-distance relationship. As they continued to date, Travis introduced Jodi to his friends, and they clearly saw lots of red flags. They even tried to warn Travis about Jodi's behavior. But similar to most people in new relationships, Travis was wearing those rose-colored glasses or goggles. Travis's friends were concerned with how obsessive Jodi was, how possessive she was of him, and when they were just hanging out, Travis, Jodi, and his friends, she would be all over him. Travis would often just ask her to stop and she just wouldn't listen. It's kind of like she was showing, he is mine. This is my property. Travis wasn't allowed to talk to women. He couldn't have any friends of the opposite sex. There was no trust in the relationship. Jodi would constantly go through his emails, go through his phone, go on his social media accounts, which at the time was MySpace and Facebook. Like I said, there was just no trust in their relationship. Travis's friends just really hoped one day he would wake up and see what everyone else saw in Jodi. Travis did have a blog called Travis Alexander Being Better, and he'd also frequently journal. He would write about wanting to be better, wanting to do better, and he'd write about how he had this huge amount of guilt. And this guilt stemmed from having premarital sex with Jodi. In the Mormon faith, as in many religions, premarital sex is frowned upon. It's a big no-no. Jodi eventually did join the LDS church, but when they started dating, she wasn't a part of it. Travis's faith was important to him, and Jodi knew this. So every time they had sex or any type of sexual intimacy, he would feel guilt. And this guilt weighed on him mentally, spiritually. And after 5 months together, Travis ended up breaking up with Jodi. Now, it's not all due to the sexual intimacy that they would have. There was a lot of other red flags that Jodi displayed, but that did weigh on him heavily. And he did love Jodi, but they just weren't connecting. They weren't compatible. It was a very unhealthy relationship. Travis would express to Jodi how he felt about their relationship being unhealthy. And even though they broke up, Jodi would move to the city that Travis lived in Arizona. Not only did she move to the same city, she would show up to his house unannounced. She would break into his garage. Yes, she knew the password, but if you did not have permission, that is breaking in. Travis's house had a doggy door, and Jodi would crawl through the doggy door to gain access to his house. Does this behavior not scream Psycho X? Travis would act differently depending on the day. Some days he'd be very angry. Other days he'd actually bring her to bed and they'd have sex. I'm sure dealing with Jodi's behavior was exhausting. And sometimes it's probably easier to cave in and just give her what she wants, which really is the worst thing you can do. During this time of, half the time being mad, half the time having sex with her, he was still trying to move on. He would end up starting to date a woman named Lisa. Allegedly, when Jodi found out about Lisa, she did what any unstable person would do. She would show up to Lisa's house, knock on the door, knock on windows, And when Lisa would check who's there, she would be gone. Lisa assumed it was Jodi, Travis assumed it was Jodi, everyone assumed it was Jodi. There were 2 different occasions when Travis also left his house to find his tires slashed. I'm sure we know who was behind that. So after 8 long months of hell, Jodi decides to move back home to California where her family lives. Travis was so relieved. And here is where you think the story would end, right? But it doesn't, because Jodi has her claws so deep into Travis, and she just was not ready to let go. Travis and Jodi would continue to text, they would continue to call, they would have phone sex, and Jodi would record their phone sex. Did Travis know it was being recorded? I'm going to think no. This now brings us to June 2008, so almost 2 years of all of this starting. Travis was interested in courting a fellow LDS church member named Mimi, and he was really excited about it. But Mimi wasn't interested in anything more than friendship. She wasn't struggling spiritually where Travis actually was. And even though Travis was hurt, he still wanted to be friends with her. So he still invited Mimi to a retreat in Cancun, Mexico. But then something strange happened. Travis went silent. His friends and family didn't hear from him for 5 days. This is very unlike Travis, and everyone began to panic. His friends would actually end up going to his house to talk to his roommate. His roommate said that he didn't see him and he just assumed that he was in Mexico. His friends confirmed, well, he isn't there. And the roommate would go and check Travis's room. When his roommate opened the door, he was met by a puddle of blood. Alarmed, he continued to walk down the hallway to the bathroom. And that's where he would discover Travis's body, deceased. Travis was in his shower on the floor, hunched over. His roommate and friends would call 911 to report what they saw. The police would arrive and start their investigation, and they would ask who would want to hurt Travis. Everyone gave them the same answer: Jodi. Travis was stabbed 27 times. His throat was cut from ear to ear, and he was shot in the head. This was a personal attack. This was overkill. Whoever did this wanted to inflict pain, and they wanted to make sure that Travis died. And they even found hairs at the crime scene. The killer left a bloody palm print and some hairs at the crime scene. But a key piece of evidence that was found was a digital camera that was found in the washing machine. And the killer put the load on cycle to wash it with Travis's clothes. This was clearly their attempt to destroy evidence. At this point, the police didn't know who was responsible, but everyone was pointing to Jodi, so they knew they needed to find her to talk to her. We're now going to back up a couple days and talk about the days leading up to Travis's body being found. On June 4th, Travis missed a very important conference call. He was not one to not show up for calls, not to show up for work, and this is what really started the conversation about where's Travis? Have you spoken to him? And that's when everyone realized no one's spoken to him. The following day, June 5th, Jodi would arrive to Salt Lake City, Utah, and she was actually arriving a day late. The gentleman that she was meeting, who she was also seeing, would report seeing lots of cuts on her hands. Not only that, but Jodi always had blonde hair and she dyed it brown. June 6th, the following day, Jodi would drive back to California. During this drive, she would call Travis and leave voicemails, but she also would check his voicemails. And she would have finally arrived home on June 7th. And we know 2 days later, on June 9th, that Travis's body was found. So the friends all tell the police about the tires being slashed, about Jodi crawling through the doggy door, about her breaking into the garage, showing up unannounced, the stalking, the logging into his social media. They told the police everything. So the investigators know they need to talk to Jodi, but they didn't have to track her down because, lucky for them, Jodi called the police station. And she called just hours after Travis's body was discovered. During her call with the investigators, Jodi confirmed that she did stay in contact with Travis, but that she was nowhere near Arizona. And the police did inform Jodi that her name was coming up often. And she's trying to play it off. Well, I already moved on. I have a new partner up in Utah. So since she moved on, why would she be hung up on Travis? Thank goodness the police didn't buy it and they continued to investigate Jodi. During their investigation, they found out that a gun, a .25 caliber gun, was missing, reported stolen from her grandparents' house a week prior to a .25 caliber gun being used on Travis. And remember that digital camera that the murderer tried to destroy? Well, the police were actually able to recover the deleted images. What they recovered was a photo from June 4th at 1:40 p.m. and it was clearly Travis and Jodi having intercourse. At 5:29 p.m., there was a picture of Travis in the shower. So we knew he was alive at 5:29 p.m. The following pictures were not meant to be taken, and it's of a man who we're assuming is Travis, hunched over on the floor of a shower, bleeding. And this was already enough to bring Jodi in. What really sealed her fate was the DNA found on the bloody palm print, as well as the hair found at the crime scene. We're going to watch some of the interrogation video now.
What I'm going to do is just ask you some questions, ask you what you've been doing, certain dates, what you were up to.
Yeah.
You mentioned you were traveling on some of these dates.
I travel a lot.
I want to kind of clarify some of these things. And, if there's a question that you don't want to answer, you don't feel comfortable, you can say no, or you can elaborate as much as you want. It's completely up to you. It's at your speed. I don't want to pressure you.
Is this recorded at all, or should we?
I don't know if there's a recording or something.
I don't know if these are voice recorders. I noticed them. If they have video, or if they have audio, or batteries, or what.
I don't think they're on. I mean, they're not on, so. What I want to do is just get to the bottom of it. Everybody wants to know, okay? And
Jodi becomes very fixated on those recorders, and I'm like, do you not see the camera? And then she also sits in this very strange position. And it's like she's trying to act normal and then does things that aren't normal. She's sitting forward, and it's, why are you doing that, girl? Okay, moving on to the next one.
I've been kind of in a daze, at least for the first few weeks.
like everybody,
Yeah. I know that a lot of people have been posting on Facebook really nice things, and memories, and at one point I was like, well, maybe I should do that. So I posted this thing, and I just said all my memories, and I realized looking back on it that it kind of sounded immature. It's more like my Dear Travis kind of letter. And so I took it down because...
More personal?
Yeah, some of it was detailed, a little more personal. Not too personal, nothing inappropriate. I just felt funny. I think because I'm a photographer, I tend to communicate more through pictures, so I posted a ton of pictures that I had of him, and I have a ton more that I just can't access right now. Other than that, I've been on Facebook and MySpace a lot, looking at his profile, looking at his pictures, reading things about his obituaries and any news updates.
Jodi's a photographer, and she communicates better through photos. Well, she accidentally kicked the camera and took pictures of her murdering Travis. And later we'll hear she knows that everyone was pointing fingers at her being the murderer, which we know she was. And she still would post things on Facebook and MySpace talking about the grief of his death. She's writing about her times with Travis, even though she tormented him when he was alive and she killed him. Let's move on to the next.
She spoke with Ryan Burns. He told the guy that's in Utah. And we've been talking a lot, and we try not to talk about that because it's kind of like, ugh. And plus, Travis is my ex-boyfriend, but at the same time, he's my friend. So while I'm mourning my friend, how do you talk to your new potential, possible, maybe person that you might start dating about your friend, even though he was your ex-boyfriend? So it's kind of a gray area. I try not to talk about him too much, but he comes up a lot. And it was through him that I learned that he said, if you come out to Utah, things are really weird because everyone thinks that you could have had a hand in
And I've
this.
talked to a lot of people, and everybody's pointing a finger at you.
I know.
Everybody is saying, I don't understand what happened to Travis. I don't know who killed him. But you need to look at Jodi. And sometimes the simplest answers are the correct ones. And that's one of the reasons I started looking at you a little bit closer. And over the last month or so, I've gotten into Travis's life, talked to all his friends, his family. I got a really good understanding of who he is now. And I got a very good understanding of your relationship with him. And I'm kind of just putting two and two together.
Well,
And it kind of matches. So one of the reasons I'm here is to talk to you to figure out what was going on between you two. I know the relationship that you guys had was of convenience sometimes. Obviously you weren't boyfriend and girlfriend anymore, but you were still having a sexual relationship, which,
Does his family know about that? Just curious.
No,
Just-
his family doesn't know anything. Yeah.
I'm interested in protecting how he's remembered as well. And
Jodi is not interested in protecting how Travis is perceived. And something that just does not make sense to me is that Jodi is allowed to date. She has Ryan Burns up in Utah. She can date him. But if Travis tries to date, it's a huge problem. Remember, during the relationship, he couldn't even have friends with the other sex. But they don't live by the same rules, right? She can do whatever she wants. She could not be controlled, but she could control Travis.
Well, the way Travis thought, by getting into his head and everything that he's written in his journals and everything I found out about him, he truly had feelings for you. And for some reason, he felt that the relationship between you and him was somewhat unhealthy.
it's probably,
Maybe you didn't understand why he didn't believe it was healthy.
No, I didn't think it was healthy either, spiritually at least, and probably emotionally, but mostly spiritually. And I think that kind of, once you have something that's not healthy spiritually, it filters through all aspects of your life. As far as the timeline, we broke, it was kind of a mutual thing, but I sort of more broke up with him.
Yeah.
And it was hard to do because I really loved him.
I don't think Jodi loved him. I think she was in love with the idea of him. I think it's kind of like the difference between love and lust. Maybe there was a point where she did love him. Now, I may be wrong, but that's my opinion. Because how could you do that to someone you love? And she's saying that she knew the relationship was unhealthy. So why not just let it go? Like, you could have had all the things you wanted. She clearly wants the family, the marriage, the kids, and all that. You could have had that just with someone else. Just move on. But instead, you killed someone and you threw your life away.
Why do you kiss Jodi in the dark and then act like you guys aren't even together in the daytime? Things like that.
That's a good statement, because that kind of sums up the relationship that you had with him. It seems like
Especially,
he liked you, he loved you. He wanted to be with you, but he was reluctant to make a commitment first off. And truly, he didn't think that you were marriage material.
Him saying that Travis didn't think she was marriage material, I'm sure that hurt her, hurt the ego. But again, it comes down to they're just not compatible. They're not good for each other. Travis wanted to be more devoted to his religion. Jodi said she did, but she didn't act like she wanted to. So if you have someone who wants to be 100% religious and someone who wants to be 75% or really anything under 100, it's just not really going to work out. Now, that might not make sense. To me, in my brain, it made sense. Okay, moving on.
I'm moving over to his trip to Cancun that he was going to. When did you first find out about that he was going with Mimi?
Oh, I found out about that at his memorial services.
So you didn't know that he was going to Cancun?
I knew he was going, yeah.
Okay. You didn't know he was taking Mimi?
I didn't know that. I think that's awesome, actually.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Mimi had called him a week or two before, and I told him, look, if you want to take somebody else, it's fine, but I have something to tell you. I don't look at you that way. I don't look at you as a boyfriend. If you want to be friends, we can be friends. And that really broke his heart.
I know. He didn't tell me that, but I found out from his bishop afterward when I talked to his bishop.
I think that's awesome. No, you don't. She does not think that's awesome. She was livid that Travis was going to invite Mimi and not her. Let's be real. It just frustrates me that she's putting on an act. And I know she has to because she doesn't want to go to jail, but, murderers.
There were some people who I talked to and said, yeah, they continued to have a relationship even after they broke up. And there are others who are saying that you had become obsessive with him to the point to where you would go into his house when he wasn't there or when you weren't invited, and he would talk to people saying, she just kind of showed up and I don't want to tell her to leave, but I don't want her here.
Oh, must have been early on, because there were a couple times when we established a rule early on, just don't come over unless, he said, you can come over anytime, but I need to know first.
Yes.
He's like, you just never know.
Because you ran into somebody one time, right? Didn't you run into like one of his ex-girlfriends as well, or was it Deanna that you ran into?
Oh yeah, well that was okay that I was there. He asked me to stay there, and it's like I got full house privileges. I could sleep in the bed, I could eat, food.
And I've talked to her, and she said that was kind of an unusual kind of situation. She didn't expect you to be there.
The investigator is accusing her of breaking in. Instead of saying, oh no, I never did that, she said, oh, that must have been early on. You know, there were a couple times that I was allowed to be there. Okay, a couple, meaning like two, I mean, a few, maybe even like 3 or 4, to the amount of times that you did break in. There's no excusing this behavior. And let's say she had full house privileges once or twice. That doesn't mean that you can just break in whenever you feel like it. But again, rules don't apply to Jodi.
I think there's some other things that you're not telling me. I think maybe the jealousy probably continued even after the fact that you moved away. For instance, was it the week of the first week of June, you took a trip to Salt Lake City. Remember that trip we talked about?
Oh, this year?
Yes.
I'm thinking back. Yeah.
You had left, I think it was like a Monday.
No, I left Monday, June 2nd.
Monday, June 2nd, in morning or afternoon or something, I can't remember what, late
I
morning.
think it was morning.
Okay, and you'd gone down to Reading and rented a car.
Mhm.
You took a trip and you decided to go to, instead of going over to Utah, you went straight out to Los Angeles area.
I went to Santa Cruz first.
Santa Cruz.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then I stayed the night in Monterey. And the next day I drove to Pasadena.
Which route did you take from there?
I was supposed to get on the 15 and go all the way up.
Mhm.
And I somehow got off the 15.
Where did you end up?
For a while I was lost, and I'm not above sleeping in the car, so I slept for a while.
Okay.
I'm a heavy sleeper and I sleep a lot, so.
But you were on the 15 for a while, and you ended up getting off the 15 somewhere.
Yeah, I looked at a map and I'm pretty sure I know where I went. Can I draw you a map?
Sure.
Because I eventually started seeing signs for Phoenix, and I was like, and it was several hundred miles away still. Like, that's weird. Where am I going? So you have California, Los Angeles, and Nevada, Arizona, Utah. And I was supposed to go somewhere right up here. Oh, I'm a lefty. So the 15 kind of does one of these.
Yeah. Goes through, let's say, Las Vegas right here.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. My
No,
note
that's
is
okay.
so
That's
wrong.
okay. So we'll just put.
I know it cuts through Arizona in the corner. Las Vegas, St. George is somewhere here, and then the 40 runs somewhere this way, because somehow I ended up on the 40. And when I saw the 40, I'm like, the only thing I associate with the 40 is Flagstaff, and Flagstaff is somewhere north
Flagstaff
of
is
Utah.
right up here.
I mean northern Arizona. And so, and I was going east, and I was like, what's going on here? I wasn't going the right way, and so
Why this road trip is so important is because this is the time where she would have went and killed Travis. So the investigator's trying to catch her in a lie. Let's have her draw out her map. Let her draw out the whole timeline of her road trip. But he knows it's not true. He knows that there's time missing from her story. And during the time that she can't account for, she was in Arizona killing Travis, even though she's going to keep saying, oh, I went this way, I drove this way. I didn't go to Arizona, but she did. So he's going to use this little dinky map and the camera against her.
You left on, was it Monday the 2nd? Right? And you didn't get to Utah until Thursday, you told me.
yeah, I got to Utah on Thursday.
So Thursday, and that's the 5th?
Yeah, I think so.
Monday, that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, yeah, 5th. Okay, so we have, it's like 48 hours there that, well, obviously 3 days, but there's 48 hours. So this trip took you a little over 48 hours there. I have a problem with this trip. There's still 20 some odd hours, even if you pulled over to sleep a couple of times.
Oh, did I tell you that I got stranded?
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned that. If you slept for 10 hours
I only slept for about
here
8
and
hours.
here, it would still leave 18 some odd hours for something else. Okay. This is what people are focusing on, is this trip that you took. Because they're saying she left, she didn't get to till Thursday. Wednesday? That's when Travis was killed.
I did not go near his house. Aren't there?
I pulled your cell records. Your cell phone was turned off between here and here. Okay? But the last place it pulled it was here. The next place it turned on was here. What does that show me?
Oh, well, oh, no.
Is there plenty of time for you to do that? Yes. Do I believe that you had come to visit Travis? Yes. Did you have the opportunity? Yes. You were traveling alone. There's no other witnesses. Your phone just happened to turn off from here to here.
Well, I didn't turn it off physically, but it died.
And then it magically, you found your charger here?
It was packed under the seat of the passenger side. And it was when I was...
When you were lost, you couldn't have maybe pulled over and found it? Or...
Well, I did finally start looking when I was stranded.
Her mind is just racing, right? She knows that they're onto her, and she's like, well, did I tell you I was stranded? Yeah, Jodi, you said that. And then the phone records, oh my goodness, that is just huge. She purposely turned her phone off, or sorry, it died. Magically died. Mentioned a great point. You're stranded. Why didn't you look for your charger? Why didn't you find it? Pull over and find your charger. Like, at this point, she has to know that it's up. The jig is up. She's caught. But throughout this whole interrogation, this whole interview, she doesn't admit it.
But I don't think you're being completely honest with me about that trip.
I honestly got lost. It's bad timing.
Were you at Travis's house on Wednesday?
Absolutely not. I was nowhere near Mesa. I was nowhere near Phoenix. I wasn't even close to him.
What if I could show you proof you were there? Will that change your mind?
I wasn't there.
You can be honest with me, Jodi.
I was not at Travis's house. Was not.
You were at Travis's house. You guys had a sexual encounter, which there's pictures. And I know you know there's pictures because I have them. I will show them to you. Okay? So, what I'm asking you is for you to be honest with me.
Jodi went to Travis's with the intention of killing him. It was premeditated. She stole the gun. Why would she then sleep with him?
I know all the details of this case. The only thing I don't know is why. Why did you choose to go visit Travis that day? And why did you do what you did?
I never
Why,
hurt
Jodi?
Travis.
You did. You hurt him. That's why we're here. I can just arrest you and throw you in jail, but I want to know why. Why did you do this to him?
I wouldn't hurt Travis. He's done so much for me.
There's so much evidence in that house. So much, and it all points to you.
I lived there.
I know you took pictures of him in the shower just before he died.
I don't think he would allow that.
Mm-hmm. And the camera actually took a couple of photos by accident during the time that he was being killed.
Really?
Yeah, Jodi, really. You were there. Quit playing this game.
Can I see the pictures?
We have your blood at the scene. We left palm print at the scene. In blood.
Are you sure the pictures aren't from another time? Are you sure that they're me? Yes, Jodi, they are you. I'm sure she regrets not taking the SD card out and destroying that or, bringing it with her, but thank goodness that she didn't. I'm sorry if now the video looks different, the lighting, the camera. We had some audio issues, microphone died, so this is now later on in the day. But to get back to the case, the video that we just watched, Jodi wants to see the pictures. She wants to see the pictures leading up to Travis's death. She wants to confirm that she's in them. I'm sure she's going to try to play it off. Oh, it's someone else. Jodi continuing to say, I didn't hurt Travis. I never would have hurt Travis. She thinks that he's all of a sudden going to believe her. Why would I hurt Travis? He did so much for me. Yeah, Jodi, why would you hurt Travis, especially if he did so much for you? These are questions you should be asking yourself. And she left so much evidence behind. The hair, the bloody palm print, the camera. There's just no getting out of this. Now, this last video that we're going to watch of Jodi in the interview room, I honestly can't even put words to it. I can't describe what we're watching. But let's just see.
Holy night, the stars are brightly shining.
She's just going to casually do a handstand and then start singing. This behavior is so strange. This is what leads me to believe she's not guilty. As in, like, she has no guilt in her head. Like, she's guilty, but she does not feel guilty. Because even with all the evidence in the world pointing to her, Jodi is just going to keep denying her involvement. So her first story is, I wasn't there, I was driving, road trip, went to go see my new man up in Utah. But after this interview, she was arrested, she slept a night in jail, and then she changed her story. So story number 2 was that she arrived at Travis's late in the morning. They had sex, she was taking photographs, because remember that photograph of him in the shower shortly before he was murdered. So she admits to taking them, and all of a sudden a masked man and a masked woman break in, and they were dead set on killing Travis. Not her, only Travis. They threatened Jodi. They said, if you tell anybody about this, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to hurt your family. Does this sound believable? To me, absolutely not. She's just pulling this out of her butt. She thought about it all night, and this is the best story she came up with. So this is her second story. Keep that in mind. We're going to hear a third one later on in trial. So this, made up story through her imagination, the investigators don't believe it either. So Jodi was arrested for the first-degree murder of Travis Alexander. Jodi was denied bond, which is not shocking in any way, and she was held in custody until her trial. The trial began on January 2nd, 2013. This is where we hear the third story. The defense changed it up again. This time they were painting Travis as an abusive boyfriend. He was filled with rage. The only reason Jodi killed him was because she was protecting herself. He lunged at her, which is what led to the attack. The trial was filled with very sexually explicit text messages, audio recordings, because she recorded their phone sex. I'm not going to show them in this video, but you can find them easily online. We're now going to watch some of the trial. We have a few videos that we're going to watch that we're going to break down and discuss.
We were talking about
The
Cancun issue, ma'am. You never told the detective about the Cancun issue, did you?
what Cancun issue?
Do you remember that we're talking about Travis Alexander? Let's start with that.
Yes, I remember that.
That's why we're here, because you killed him, right? Mr. Alexander is out of the shower, correct?
Yes, he is. Or he stepped out. I don't know if he has 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but he stepped out.
Well, he needed to have been out of the shower in order for him to grab you and body slam you, didn't he?
Not necessarily.
Oh, so
He
you're
had-
saying that he was in the shower, and from the shower he kind of reached over and grabbed you and body slammed you sideways, even though he wasn't out of the shower?
No, I said he definitely stepped out, but I don't know if he had both feet out or 1 foot out.
So when he is in the shower, he at least takes one step out, and you're far enough away so that the water's not going to be getting on the camera, right? Right?
Yes.
And in this position where his legs are open, potentially, right? Right?
Yes.
You're saying that he reaches over with one leg still in the shower, and he body slams you. That's what you said, right?
No, it's not what I said.
Ma'am, were you crying when you were shooting him?
I don't remember.
Were you crying when you were stabbing him?
I don't remember.
How about when you cut his throat? Were you crying then?
I don't know.
So take a look then.
I don't know and I don't remember are words that are commonly spoken from Jodi when the prosecution is asking her questions. Now, the prosecution was very hard on her, and some people think that he was too aggressive. They definitely butt heads. You can see that throughout the entire trial. But I think that she actually needed someone that was going to push her like he did. We're going to move on to another clip.
This is a very small closet, isn't it?
No, it's bigger than the cell that I live in.
It's bigger than what?
It's bigger than the cell that I live in. It's not a small closet.
Ma'am, we don't want to know where you live in. Do you understand that?
I'm just using that as reference. It's
Ma'am,
not small.
Do you understand? Did I ask you where you were living?
No.
We're clear, right? We do not want to know where you're living right now. You understand that?
Okay, sorry.
No need to be. Take that attitude that... Is there an issue with you with answering the questions as they're posed?
Sometimes, but I'm trying to answer them the best I can.
So is it an attitude issue with you then?
Objection, argumentative, Your Honor. Move to strike.
Something that, according to you, you said on direct examination, I've never killed anyone before. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, I remember.
So it's kind of a highlight in your life, wouldn't you agree? Or a low light, however you want to look at it.
Where Jodi is living, in a jail cell that's smaller than the closet that they're showing, is because of her. No one forced her to kill Travis. She did. Her actions, her decision led to these consequences. You now living in a jail cell for the rest of your life. And you can see her face. She is not happy answering his questions. And she will try to avoid his questions as much as she can.
I'm not asking you if you're looking at his eyes. I'm asking you whether or not you could see his face.
Not really. Like, he was kind of like...
Okay. So what you're saying then is that he is more like a bull rather than a linebacker because he's got his head down and he's charging like a bull with his head down. That's what you're saying, right?
Not quite down like that, maybe in between. That would be accurate.
All right, so he's in between here. If he's got his head down, as you tell us that he does, and you say you can't see his face, though. That's what you say, right?
No, I just don't remember whether I noticed his face or not. He was just this ball of fury coming at me, and that's what I remember.
And you said you couldn't see his eyes. That's what you just said, right?
I don't remember seeing his eyes.
So that means you didn't see his eyes, right?
That doesn't mean that. It just means I don't remember looking into his eyes.
So if he's down in this position that you're talking about with his head down like that, how could he possibly know to come after you if he's looking down? How is he going to do? Feel his way around?
Objection calls for speculation, argumentative.
Sustained.
He had his head down. That's what you said, right?
He was like a... I can just describe it as like a linebacker unless I get up and act it out, which I would like to not do, if possible.
Then do it. Go ahead. Show us how he was standing immediately before, or how he was sitting or crouching immediately before this happened. If you could do it just from there.
I believe so.
Well, no. Do you remember previously talking to us about how he was coming at you and he was this horrible man with his mean face? Do you remember telling me that?
So this is Jodi trying to describe what Travis Alexander was doing right before she killed him. You know, how he was approaching her, how he was attacking her. As she said, a ball of fury, right? Because he was so angry. So she said, can't really explain it. I can act it out, but I don't want to. And he said, okay, act it out right there. I don't know why she would offer to act it out, knowing that they will tell you to act it out. It's like she's used to always getting her way. And, you know, there is such a thing as pretty privilege. And Jodi is a very beautiful girl. So she probably did get away with a lot of stuff growing up. And in this trial, in a courtroom, that's not going to happen.
And that's why you left this message that we heard in exhibit number 365, right?
Yes. Well, that's part of the reason.
Well, that was the main reason, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, there would be really no other reason to leave a dead man a telephone call, would there?
I don't know. I was trying to kill myself, I think.
Ma'am, you've said that many times, that you tried to kill yourself, right? In court.
I don't know that many, but I've recounted a time that I did.
You've said it more than 3, 4, 5 times, right?
Perhaps.
And in fact, one of the things that you told us about was that, well, when you were in the Maricopa County Jail, that you tried to kill yourself, right?
No, Siskiyou County Jail.
Siskiyou County Jail. So you do remember that. And that when you tried to do that, you took some Advil. Do you remember telling us about that?
Yes.
And that what you did then is you took a razor, right?
Yes.
And that you cut yourself, right?
It was a nick.
It was a nick. And because it stung so much, that you said, nah, this is not the way for me to go, right?
I didn't say that.
You said it stung and that's why you stopped. Isn't that what your direct testimony was?
That night, yes.
Right. And that's the night that I'm talking to you about, right?
Yes.
I'm not talking to you about any other night, am I?
It sounded like you were.
No. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about any other night, am I? Do you understand that?
Okay, I understand that.
And you nicked yourself and it hurt, right?
Yes.
And I think the word that you used, stung, right?
Yes.
To use your standard, ma'am, of how you stopped because it stung. Can you imagine how much it must have hurt Mr. Alexander when you stuck that knife right into his chest? That really must have hurt, right?
Argumentative.
Sustained. Okay.
Imagine trying to have a conversation with Jodi. Imagine having to cross-examine her. I can tell you, I would not be able to. I would lose my shit. I have no patience for her. But she obviously left the voicemail on Travis's phone knowing he was deceased because she killed him to cover up her actions. Because why would someone who knows he's dead because they murdered him call him? Leave him a voicemail. Keep calling him, of course, to cover their tracks. And they speak about how Jodi often tries to hurt herself and, you know, how she tried to cut her wrist, but it stung. It was too painful. And he brought up a good point. How do you think Travis felt? She cut his throat, slit his throat from ear to ear. And this might be cold, but I have no sympathy for her. And she probably hates Martinez because he is on her. He is not easy. And you can tell that he is not putting up with her shit.
Do you have problems with your memory, ma'am?
Sometimes.
So you can tell us, for example, what kind of coffee you bought at Starbucks back on June 3rd of 2008, but you can't tell us what you said yesterday or the day before?
I always got the same drink at Starbucks.
Sir, didn't you tell us just minutes ago that she was suicidal?
She
Didn't you?
told us she was suicidal.
I understand that's what you're saying now. I'm asking you to think. You don't have any memory problems, do you?
No.
I'm asking you to think back to maybe 5 minutes ago.
Martinez is finally bringing up Jodi's memory issue because clearly throughout the trial, she suffers from memory loss. So she can remember a coffee order, you know, from years and years ago, but she can't remember what she said on the stand the day before. And no one is safe from his accusations of memory loss because the defense's psychologist is asked the same thing. And when he is, the pause is just so great. Now we're going to watch a part of the trial that has to do with the gas cans. And this really proves that it is premeditated. I mean, besides stealing the gun from her grandparents, this is really important for the case.
One of the things that you told us was that you're going to tell the truth, the whole truth throughout this proceeding. Do you remember that when you took the oath?
Yes, to the best of my recollection.
Am I asking you to the best of your recollection that you took the oath, ma'am?
Objection, argumentative, Judge.
Sustained.
Ma'am, do you remember standing in front of the clerk to Judge Stevens' left and being sworn in? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And do you remember being asked, will you tell the truth, the whole truth? Do you remember being told that?
Yes.
And you swore that you would, right?
Okay, so I lied. Before we talk about the gas cans, we're going to talk about her taking her oath. You know, she can't ever just say yes. It has to be, well, you know, and something else. So instead of saying, yes, I remember taking the oath to tell the truth, she's saying, well, the best of my recollection. Talking to her is nails on a chalkboard. I could not. Now we're going to talk about the gas cans.
Ma'am, the other thing that you told us with regard to these gas cans is that you purchased one in Salinas, California, right?
Yes.
5-gallon gas can, right?
Yes.
And you purchased this gas can in Salinas, and you said after a short period of time that you returned it back to the store, the Walmart in Salinas, right?
That's correct.
And it's the same store that you brought it from, right?
Yes.
Because it was probably because it was in the same general vicinity, right?
Right.
And ma'am, one of the other things that you said was that the reason that you did this was because it was expensive and it didn't seem to make sense to you to get that gas can, right?
Yeah, in hindsight, I realized it did make sense.
All right. So why is it then? Why is it then, ma'am, that you showed up with 3 gas cans in Salt Lake City?
I went to Mesa with 2 gas cans.
You filled up with gas, right?
I think I did. I don't know.
Well, let's look. Let's start looking at it. And that's Tesoro, right? That's
Yes.
a gas station, right?
Yes.
And you put some gasoline there, right?
Yes.
Right? And it does tell us here that you went to pump number 2, right?
Yes.
Put in 10.672 gallons, right?
Yes.
And the price for each one was $3.85 per gallon, right?
Yes.
And it was $41.18, right?
Yes.
Then at exhibit 237.017, same gas station. You see that?
Yes.
You see the date and the approval time?
Yes.
It's 4:05 in the morning, correct?
Correct.
And on this one, it's 36.98, right?
Yes.
And it talks about that you're at pump 2 again, and it's 9.583 gallons, right?
That's correct.
You actually put in more gas, though, didn't you?
I don't know.
Well, then let's take a look at, you had a bank account with Washington Mutual, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Take a look at this purchase here from Tesoro. You see the amount there?
Yes.
How much is that, ma'am?
$36.98.
Okay. Let's take a look at exhibit number 237.017. How much is the amount?
$36.98.
It's the same station, it's same amount, correct?
Correct.
That's the same purchase, right?
Yes.
And exhibit number 237.016, it's for how much, ma'am?
$41.18.
And if we go down here, do you see that right there?
Yes.
How much is that?
$41.18.
That's the same amount, right?
Correct.
And then you do have, though, a third transaction there. Do you see that?
Yes.
1965, right?
Yes.
Ma'am, if we go back to exhibit number 237.017, how much was the price per gallon that you bought that day?
It looks like $3.85.
And 9/10, right?
Yes.
Ma'am, if you take this amount per gallon, 3.859 per gallon, and you divide it into this amount of 1965, do you know how much, what that division would indicate?
No.
Would it surprise you that it would indicate that it's 5.09? Would that surprise you?
No.
You make 3 purchases here, don't you?
Yes.
You also, there are 2 purchases for sure that we know that are for gas, right?
That's correct.
The other one is for 1965, right?
Yes.
If we do the mathematics, that equals 5 gallons of gas. If you were putting gas,
Objection, argumentative is, there's no testimony that it was gas purchased.
Overruled.
What was your question?
the question is a mathematical one, ma'am. Isn't it true that if you divide 1965 by 3.859, that you would get 5.09?
If the math is correct, then yes.
And you did indicate to us that you did buy a third can in Salinas, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you bought that in Salinas, and it was a 5-gallon gas can, right?
That's correct.
Ma'am, would it surprise you that the Walmart in Salinas does not have any record of any refund
Objection.
back on June 2nd when you claim you bought this, or June 3rd when you claim you bought this?
Objection,
Of a
argumentative
refund.
beyond the scope.
Approach, please.
The reason these gas cans are so important is because it shows premeditation. Jodi intentionally brought these gas cans so she wouldn't stop nearby Travis's house for gas. If she stopped nearby his house, it would place her at the crime scene. So this is huge that they have the receipts, they have the proof, and there's no refund of the gas can that she claims to return. So they did very well investigating this and bringing this evidence forward. Jodi was on the stand for approximately 18 days. And in Arizona, the jurors can actually ask the defendant questions, and they came back with over 100 questions for Jodi. Their questions included, why should they believe her now? She lied so much before. Why is now different? Why is she all of a sudden telling the truth? They asked about the gun. They asked about the relationship dynamics between Jodi and Travis. They even questioned her self-defense claims. They were asking about her memory and her mental state. After 15 hours, the jurors came back with a verdict.
Ladies and gentlemen, I understand you have reached a verdict. The verdict form has been handed to the bailiff. Please come forward. The clerk will read and record the verdict.
State of Arizona versus Jodi Arias, verdict, count 1. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn, in the above entitled action, upon our oaths, do find the defendant as to count 1, first-degree murder, guilty. 5 jurors find premeditated, 0 find felony murder, 7 find both premeditated and felony. Signed, foreperson. Is this your true verdict, so say you want it all?
There was a very audible reaction from the courtroom when the verdict was read that Jodi was guilty. And now the process continues in this trial. And now they have to decide if her actions warrant the death penalty. But before we get into the sentencing, we're going to watch a victim impact statement from Travis Alexander's brother, Stephen.
My name is Stephen Alexander. Travis was my big brother. I was sleeping in after working a 12-hour graveyard shift in the Army. I woke up to the sound of my wife crying, walking up the stairs. I will never forget what she said. Samantha, I cannot tell him. You have to. My wife handed the phone to me. It was my sister Samantha. She was crying hysterically. She told me, Stephen, Travis is dead. I thought I was dreaming. She didn't really have any details at the time, so I just gave the phone back to my wife. A few moments later, we found out he was killed. I remember walking out my back door, screaming, crying at the sky, asking why. Then I sank down into a corner, and I cried some more. A while later, my commander called with the same news. I kept my composure, but in my head, I was reliving the same exact moment all over again. As soon as we hung up, I broke down again. I thought my brother was bulletproof. I thought he was stronger than anything. He couldn't be cut down or knocked down. He was in 2 motorcycle crashes and walked away unharmed. He wrecked several cars and nothing happened to him. He rolled a snowmobile and again, not a scratch. He was unbreakable. Who on earth would want to do this to him? For what reasons? He wanted to move forward in life, to better himself and only to help others. Why him? Unfortunately, I won't ever get the answers to most of my questions about my brother's death. Questions like, how much did he suffer? How much did he scream? What was he saying? What was the last thing he saw before his eyes closed? What was his final thought in his head? The last time I saw my brother was Christmas of 2007. He got to meet my daughter and hold her for the first time. He said she was the most beautiful little girl he's ever seen. I never would have thought that would be the last time that I would see him. I don't want to have to see my brother's murderer anymore. I don't want to hear his name dragged through the mud anymore. Travis used to write out his day on a flashcard. The last one he wrote said to call Stephen. I never got that call. Now, when I want to talk or see my brother, I have to go to a 3.5 foot, 8 foot long, and 6 foot deep hole in the ground. He was meant to do so much more. He never got to live his dreams. In 2008, he wrote his affirmations on his blog. This year will be the best year of my life. This is the year that will eclipse all others. I will earn more, learn more, travel more, serve more, love more, give more, and be more than all the other years of my life combined. True, other years now past have been at times magnificent, but not like this. This is a year of metamorphosis, of growth and accomplishment that at previous times was unimaginable. A year where the impossible will become commonplace, and the unachievable will become effortlessly achieved. Where I raise myself to heights only visited by the great men and women of this world, doing this year will be the best year of my life. And how will I do this? Through compassionate service, random acts of kindness, unconditional love, and acknowledgement of the true source of all blessings with gratitude in my heart. And when I fail, I will learn from my mistakes. I will strengthen my resolve, be better than I was before. What will I do to improve my finances? I will work harder, yes, but more importantly, I will work smarter and learn to leverage myself and get more out of one day than I previously got out of a month. I will succeed through integrity and through the selfless service of others. Through the powerful forces and the structure, the mind, I will tap into the source of infinite intelligence and be more efficient in all my endeavors and be an exponentially greater asset to this world. I will love and then love more. I will serve and serve more. I will forgive and then forgive more. I will not let these thoughts fade, but instead remind myself of them daily and spend time visualizing myself in accomplishment of them until the day that my thoughts become reality. Then I will not stop, but press forward to new goals and new heights in my quest to change this world. 2008 will be the best year of my life, which will lay the foreground for 2009 to dwarf the accomplishments of 2008. This year will be the best year of my life, and I will succeed. Travis believed every single one of us was created to be successful. We all have different lives and trials, just have to get there. Travis has a legacy. It is up to us to make sure it survives. You were born to be great. It is your destiny. The difference between a stumbling block and a stepping stone is the character of the individual walking the path. Travis coined that philosophy. Those are Travis's words. That is the way my brother lived his life. That is the way he wanted to continue to live. That is how he wanted us to live. He will never get to do that because he was so brutally ripped out of this world, my world. Hopefully one day I can make him proud. Thank you.
These victim impact statements never get easier. I do feel it's important to include them, and I know that they're always lengthy, but I feel a lot of time in these cases, the victim gets forgotten. And these victim impact statements really get to show us more of the victims and the victim's family and their relationship. And I do think it's important for these videos. In this victim impact statement from Stephen, Travis's brother, we hear about this blog post, how he wants to do better, not just for himself, but for others. And it's just heartbreaking that his life was taken by Jodi and that she, instead of admitting guilt, is just dragging his name through the mud. I can't imagine what it was like for his family to sit there through the trial, hearing those text messages read out loud, hearing their recorded phone sex out loud, hearing about how brutal their brother's murder was. And Travis always took care of his siblings. And it's just something that they probably will never forget. They probably have nightmares to this day about his death. Again, remember, stabbed 27 times. Throat slit from ear to ear and shot. I don't think I could ever move on from that. And I too would never want to see my brother's murderer again. Now we're going to listen to a statement made by Jodi. It's also lengthy, but I think it's important to listen to. We have to remember that originally she was going on TV doing interviews, stating that she'd prefer the death penalty over being sentenced to prison for the rest of her life. So when it was her turn to speak during her statement, instead of doubling down on what she's been saying this whole time, she recanted her statement. So let's watch a clip of that now.
My mom visited me just like she'd been doing every week since trial began. She told me that after leaving the courthouse, she was idling at a stoplight, and she happened to look over at the car next to her. And Travis's siblings were in that car. My mom and I were silent for a few moments when she finally voiced exactly what I was thinking. She said, "I know they're going through hell." Yet nothing drove that point home for me more than when I heard them speak last week. I never meant to cause them so much pain. I didn't know then that if I got life instead of death, I could become employed and self-reliant. I didn't know that if I got life, there are many things I can do to affect positive change and contribute in a meaningful way.
You never meant to cause them pain, but you took their brother and you brutally murdered him. All you did was cause pain. Physically to Travis and mentally to the siblings, to his family. I had to pause here, but we're going to continue now.
Yet nothing drove that point home for me more than when I heard them speak last week. I never meant to cause them so much pain. I didn't know then that if I got life instead of death, I could become employed and self-reliant. I didn't know that if I got life, there are many things I can do to affect positive change and contribute in a meaningful way. In prison, there are programs I can start and people I can help, and programs that I can continue to participate in. I'll share a few examples that I've thought of. A few months before trial, and by that I mean jury selection, my hair was past my waist, and I donated it to Locks of Love, the nonprofit which creates wigs for cancer patients who've lost their hair. In fact, that was my third donation to that organization since I was arrested. If I'm allowed to live in prison, I will continue to donate to that organization for the rest of my life. Additionally, I've designed a t-shirt. This is the t-shirt, of which 100% of the proceeds go to support nonprofit organizations which also assist other victims of domestic violence. Some people may not believe that I am a survivor of domestic violence. They're entitled to their opinion. I'm supporting this cause because it's very, very important to me. These are only a handful of examples. I've never been to prison. I don't know from personal experience what it's like there. But I'm certain that after I arrive, I'll likely find many other ways in which I can contribute to the women there. Following my arrest, I wanted so much to avoid trial. Not necessarily the outcome, although that's naturally not something I was looking forward to, but trial. All of the graphic, mortifying, horrific details paraded out into a public arena. Instead, I was hoping to go quietly into the night, whether off to prison or the next life. But with the amount of attention my case received early on, I felt in my ignorance that it was necessary to speak out. I got on TV and I lied. I lied about what I did, and I lied about the nature of my relationship with Travis. It's never been my intention to malign his name or character. In fact, it was a goal of mine to preserve his reputation. I didn't want to drag out Travis's skeletons or mine and explain my experiences with them. I didn't want to unveil all of those ugly text messages and emails and that awful tape. All these things which now stand as a public and permanent testimony of the darker aspects of our relationship. To 18 strangers, in front of Travis's family, in front of my family, in front of what feels like the whole world. It's never been my intention to throw mud on Travis's name. When I took the stand, I was obligated to answer the questions posed to me. And if you'll remember, many times I was quick to defend him in the same breath. I loved Travis, and I looked up to him. At one point, he was the world to me. This is the worst mistake of my life. It's the worst thing I've ever done. It's the worst thing I ever could have seen myself doing. In fact, I couldn't have seen myself doing it. Before that day, I wouldn't even want to harm a spider. To this day, I can hardly believe I was capable of such violence, but I know that I was. And for that, I'm going to be sorry for the rest of my life. I was horrified by what I'd done, and I'm horrified still. In many ways, my family has also suffered a great loss. Their pain is fresh because they only learned about it 2 weeks ago, the moment the verdict was read, the moment their hopes of ever welcoming me home someday were dashed. My dad, who's here today, was in California, awaiting anxiously in front of the TV. My mom came to visit me after court that dark day. She had spoken to my dad on the way over. And she told me that in the 34 years that they've been together, she's never heard him cry the way he did that day. I've caused that pain. I've caused them to hurt that way. And I will concede that with Travis's family, theirs is a much greater loss, and I can never make up for it. It's my hope that with the verdict you've rendered thus far, that they will finally gain a sense of closure. Stephen said he doesn't want to look at his brother's murderer anymore. If I get life, he won't have to. I've made many public statements that I would prefer the death penalty to life in prison. Each time I said that, though I meant it, I lacked perspective. Until very recently, I could not have imagined standing before you all and asking you to give me life. To me, life in prison was the most unappealing outcome I could possibly think of. I thought I'd rather die. But as I stand here now, I can't in good conscience ask you to sentence me to death because of them. Either way, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison. It'll either be shortened or not. If it's shortened, the people who will hurt the most are my family. I'm asking you, please, please don't do that to them.
Okay, so there's a couple things we need to go over regarding her statement. First, saying she didn't want to go through the trial. Then why did you? You didn't want Travis's family, your family, the whole world to hear all these things about all the skeletons in the closet. But all of this came out because of you. You did intentionally drag his name. You did not care about his reputation. You did not care how he was perceived by the world. You knew you were creating stories, telling lies, and you did not care because all you cared about was protecting yourself. First, you brutally murder him. Second, you do drag his name through the mud. You try to have the public believe, the court believe, that he was an abusive man. Which, again, I don't know why people lie about this. Real people go through these situations, and it's actually terrifying to be in a relationship with an abuser. To lie about it is something that I can never understand. Because there's people in the world that do make up stories, real victims don't get believed. And that is not okay. Jodi admitting that she lied. Thank you. Everyone already knew, but great that you can acknowledge it now. And I don't believe for 1 second she's so concerned about getting the death penalty because her family is going to hurt. Yeah, you know what? I'm sure they're going to hurt. I'm sure they're hurt now because of what you did. Because yes, they did lose their daughter because she's in prison for the rest of her life. But their daughter's not dead like Travis is. But I believe that she's trying to use her family to get pity when really it's because she does not want to die. Now that the reality has set in that she could be sentenced to death, she's scared. And I did cut out portions of her statement. She did say that she would teach people Spanish and sign language, that people were reaching out to her, but because she was doing the trial, she couldn't because she had no time. She also wants to create a recycling program for prison, and she wants to help illiterate women in prison learn how to read, which is all great. Yeah, that's all nice of you. You know, Jodi's a good talker, but she's also a brutal murderer. She's cruel. She's a terrible person. Like, I personally can't even get Travis's image wiped from my mind about how he died. And I didn't even personally know him. We have to move on. And after the jurors listened to the statements, they would deliberate and they would decide if Jodi should receive the death penalty. On May 23rd, 2013, the jurors reached a verdict, and it was hung. 8 out of 12 believed she deserved the death penalty. The judge had to declare a mistrial for this portion of the sentencing. Here in Canada, we don't have the death penalty. Now, I do believe that there are certain cases that do warrant it, but I could imagine being on the jury that it's hard to actually sentence someone to death. During the trial, there was mistrial motions and there were appeals. The defense claimed that the lead officer perjured himself. And then there was also a defense witness that started receiving death threats. There was just a chaotic mess. Thankfully, the retrial sentencing started on October 21st, 2014. And on March 2nd, 2015, after 26 hours, the jurors came back. Again, it was hung 11-1. 11 wanting Jodi to be sentenced to death. The judge didn't want to call a mistrial, so she provided them with more information and asked them to go back to deliberate. But the one juror that did not want Jodi to be sentenced to death held on. They would not change their mind. And that one juror actually ended up getting her information doxed. People would be leaking her address, her phone number, and they would be sending her death threats. On March 5th, 2015, the judge declared another mistrial. After 2 deadlocked jurors were unsuccessful in securing a death penalty, the trial was just moved on to sentencing. Jodi couldn't be tried a 3rd time for the death penalty. So at this point, the judge had to decide if Jodi would be sentenced to life with parole or without parole. And Judge Stevens sentenced Jodi to life without the possibility of parole. She mentioned how cruel the murder was. She mentioned how Jodi not only used a knife, but also a gun. She included how Jodi intentionally tried to damage evidence. And she also went to great lengths to try to conceal her involvement. And those were the reasons that the judge came to the decision that she did. And now I wasn't sure if I should mention this, because in my opinion, it doesn't actually take away from Jodi's actions, from her trial. But Juan Martinez, the prosecutor, was disbarred. There were allegations of sexual harassment from the women that he worked with. And that behavior is obviously not okay. It's disgusting. And he does deserve to lose his license for acting and behaving like a creep. I want to know your opinion on this case. Please let me know down below. If you have any case recommendations, also leave them down below. But that's all I have for you today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you continue to have a great day. Bye.